The scripture reading tonight is taken from Ecclesiastes 3, 1-8. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to throw away, a time to tear, and a time to sow, a time to keep silent, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. The word of the Lord.
For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. So Advent is about to begin, and Christmas is around the corner. Seasons of joy and laughter, and cookies and cider, music, lights, parties, and holy waiting for and receiving the Christ child. These are not seasons of sadness, not times to weep and to mourn, right? Except we do, anyway, because life is like that. If we are personally in a season of suffering, or corporately feeling the pain given the state of the world, if we're experiencing any kind of loss, we bring that into Advent and into Christmas, even if it's a bit taboo, because we want to be real, we want to be authentic, right? So however we are in Advent and at Christmas, we bring that, and it's okay. Loss, unfortunately, is part of life. We lose loved ones, as our own Melanie Robbins has this week with the death of her husband, Ken. Most of us hadn't met him because his health, she just started attending a couple years ago, and his health hasn't been good this whole time. I've only met him once. Beautiful man. But we grieve with her. She's one of us. They were part of us. And we remember the loss of our own loved ones, whether they died long ago or not too long ago. It still hurts, especially at Christmas. And there are other losses too, right? We lose relationships, we lose pets, we lose jobs and financial stability, we lose health, we lose peace of mind, we lose faith, we lose hopes and dreams. We aren't where we want to be in our lives, and we feel alone, disappointed, weary. Maybe we're in the middle of a crisis. Maybe our family is complicated and our faith is shaky and we're scared to hope. Stuff hits the fan in December, as in any other month, which is extra tough because this is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year. I almost sang it for you. It isn't fair. Life is hard so much of the time. Can't Christmas be a reprieve? But as the wise ones say, it is what it is. Putting pressure on ourselves and others to wrap everything up in a bow is not helpful. Together with our peppermint tea, or in my case, peppermint mocha, we might need a good cry. And we might need a psalm of lament, like the one Pastor Rob read for us, and like the one Jesus prayed on the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me? From the words of my groaning. Of the 150 Psalms in the Bible, 68 of them are Psalms of lament. And we need those, not only in Lent, but also in Advent. We need to grieve, we need to sit in sadness, and we might even need to cancel the dinner party sometimes. So at FaithWorks, we plan these Blue Christmas gatherings each year to make space for lament, because it's really important in our life together as a worshiping community to grieve together, to acknowledge our losses, It's too hard to bear them alone. We don't plan Blue Christmas on the last Saturday before Advent to get it over with so that we can be shiny, happy people by next weekend. We do it to remember that this grieving is okay all the way through Advent and Christmas. It's okay. We do it to be attentive to the God who is familiar with suffering, who came to our earth in the person of Jesus to be with us in suffering and to comfort us in suffering. We worship Emmanuel, God with us. And we do this to be attentive to each other so that when someone is not smiling at one of our Advent gatherings, we might remember why. And we might make space for them in the midst of the twinkling lights, to maybe speak a word of encouragement, to maybe give a hug, or just to sit together. Because this is how we live incarnationally with each other. Our office administrator, Merle, has spread the love of all things Christmas with the rest of the staff. She has given me permission to say this. I should have worn my Christmas sweater because she has infected me with a love for Christmas sweaters. She decorates the office, and I think she has enough Christmas sweaters to wear all month long. Now, she's only here 2 days a week, but if you 2, 4, 6, 8, that's 8 Christmas sweaters. I only have 2 right now, but I'm working on it. And I don't know why I've been such a Scrooge about Christmas sweaters all these years. Her enthusiasm is contagious. But when I show up to the office with a bit more of a heavy heart, she makes room for it. Her Christmas spirit doesn't seem to be threatened by my occasional blue mood. We need to make room for each other's melancholy, even and especially in these seasons of cheer. Advent and Christmas are times to laugh and dance and wear Christmas sweaters, but also time to weep and to mourn in our Christmas sweaters. Jesus comes to be with us in it all. And let's remember that not all of the Christmas story is happy anyway. Of course, the angel choir sings peace on earth. And of course, the baby born in a manger really is the very best news we could have hoped for. But Jesus' birth was also the catalyst for Herod's rage. Pastor Rob mentioned this in his teaching time last week. Herod was so threatened by Jesus' birth and the prophecy that out of Bethlehem would come a great ruler that he ordered his soldiers to kill all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and younger. It's just horrific if you take a minute to think about that. And having been warned about it in a dream, Joseph led his family out of Bethlehem to Egypt. So Jesus was a refugee. There's pain and there's suffering in our sweet nativity story. So why not admit our own pain and suffering? Let's laugh and weep. That would make it a more honest Christmas, a season for everything. So tonight we each picked up a stone and we've been holding it in our hands as we've sung and listened and prayed, and we've held that grief, and I wonder if it's felt heavy and what we're going to do with it. And as Pastor Rob mentioned already, our worship design team has come up with a beautiful way for us to work on processing our grief together. We've held the stones, we're holding them now, we're turning them over in our hands, and soon we'll be invited to lay them down, like the kids have already done. As Pastor Rob mentioned, a cairn is formed when people place stones one on top of the other to create a pile or a stack that signifies something. So there's intentionality and there's meaning in the building of a cairn. And historically, stone cairns were used as burial monuments or memorials, markers. These days we might see them at landmarks, like at the top of a mountain, or as a marker on a hiking trail. And the one at CMU that I'm showing you again here is near the castle building, and he already mentioned what it's commemorating. The next one is at the International Peace Gardens, marking the border between Canada and the US. And this third picture is a bit of a mystery. It's my favorite one. It's near Ottawa on Lake Opinacon, and no one seems to know why it's there or what it signifies. The cairn we build here in this place tonight might have a slightly different meaning for each of us. So for some, the laying down of a stone is going to be about letting go of a burden or a worry. And for others, it'll be a monument to our grief. And for still others, a marker on the path. And some of us are going to lay down our stones for people who we love, who are grieving, who aren't here tonight. We'll do it for them. However we think of it and however our grief looks, the beauty of the cairn is that the stones touch each other. My grief touches yours and your grief touches mine, and together we make something of it. A time to build up, a time to gather stones together. So building this stone cairn is hopefully therapeutic because we're doing something, because we know that grief lives in our bodies. We are whole creatures whose bodies and emotions and spirits are interconnected. And so when we do something tangible with our bodies to express our grief, there can be a spiritual connection and an emotional release. And people sometimes experience this when they walk prayer labyrinths, like the one at Kings Park here in Winnipeg, or a pilgrimage like the Camino. They bring a stone into the center of the labyrinth and leave it there, and then leave the labyrinth a little lighter. Or they lay it down on the path, marking a place of discovery, something that has been learned, or an encounter. And so there's a story in the Bible in Genesis 28 of Jacob encountering God and marking the place with a stone. He doesn't build a cairn, but he does use a stone to signify something important. So you know the story, most likely. He's been on the run from his older brother Esau, having deceived their father Isaac and having cheated Esau out of the blessing that was rightfully the firstborns in that culture. So when Jacob found out that Esau was planning to kill him because of what he'd done, Jacob packed his bags and left home, as one would do. At one point on his journey, Jacob lay down to rest. The sun was setting, he was tired, so he used a stone for a pillow and slept. And while he slept, he dreamed. And he dreamed of a stairway reaching between heaven and earth, with angels ascending and descending on it. And then he saw God standing beside him and heard these words: I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring, and your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Jacob had betrayed his father and his brother. He was in exile from his home, and still God had mercy and promised to be with him, to take care of him, provide for him. When everything looked hopeless, when Jacob thought he was lost and alone, God showed up. And then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And then Jacob took a stone he had used for a pillow and stood it up. He poured oil over it and named the place Bethel, meaning house of God. And he made a vow to God. Jacob promised that if God would truly be with him and would answer do what God had promised, Jacob would give a tenth of everything he owned to God, and the place he marked with a stone would be God's house. Jacob met God, and the encounter changed him, so he marked that place. So there's a lot in that story, and most of it we're not going to touch on tonight. There's a lot about land, a lot about peoplehood and blessing. Those are maybe sermons, teaching times for another day. But for tonight, I want to zero in on one phrase, actually, and I wonder if we can focus on Jacob's bold and humble declaration. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. These Advent and Christmas seasons, as we grieve our losses, I wonder if we might discover, surely the Lord is in this place of grief, and I did not know it. One commentator on Jacob's story calls the stairway between heaven and earth a sacred portal between realms. And I think that's beautiful. And I think that grief is a sacred portal. Isn't it true that when things are really, really hard, we reach out to God with a longing that we rarely have when things are easy? Suffering makes us vulnerable, needy. We lose our inhibition and cry for help. And God hears and comes and comforts us. The psalmist writes, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." Our grief is sacred space where heaven touches earth. The God of the manger is the God of the cross. God will not only be in the laughing and dancing this Christmas, God will be in the weeping and mourning when we're missing the loved one who's no longer with us, or we're disappointed that things aren't as we wish they'd be. God will meet us this Advent and Christmas in joy and in grief. So maybe our prayer can be that we are open to holy encounter and that we let it change us. We're scared of change, but change can also be liberating. What if a holy encounter means we finally let go of that grudge, or we finally lay down that vision of the perfect life and accept that life can be messy and still very, very good? What if a holy encounter settles us with the knowledge that suffering and love invariably go together? We grieve much that which we have loved much. Richard Rohr says love and suffering are the two great catalysts for change. And so what are we learning from what we have loved? What are we learning from what we have suffered? And if it's too soon to tell, because we're still in the middle of it, this blessing by Shara Lee Gerber might be for us. It's from her book entitled Unhappy Holidays, Blessings for a Blue Christmas. In the midst of the devastating and extraordinary, may you have the strength to do the ordinary and daily. When fear lodges in your throat, when the monster of what if sits on your chest, may you stay present to what is without catastrophizing. In the failure, disappointment, misunderstanding, and closed doors, may hope slip between, a hedge of protection around your heart. When you are holding on to the end of your rope, when you cannot see a path forward, a way through, may you refuse to assign meaning or outcomes in the messy middle. And in the heartbreaking pain of separation and loss and grief and death after death after death, may you be held by the arms that are able to hold what you cannot. This is a season for everything, a time for everything. And sometimes the seasons mingle and everything gets mixed up together. One commentator suggests that the poetry of Ecclesiastes, the dualism, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, that these are not about opposites that demand their own season, but rather counterparts that are all part of the rhythm of life. A baby is born the same week a grandparent dies. We enjoy family and friends around the Christmas tree while missing the ones who aren't there. We celebrate joy to the world and peace on earth with the knowledge that somewhere bombs are falling and forest fires are simmering underground. This is life, and this is Christmas. If it isn't, what's the point anyway? I don't need a God who comes when everything is sparkling and perfect. I need a God who comes when things are messy and uncertain and painful. I need a God who is born, and it's bloody, and it's shocking, and it's the most beautiful suffering and joy mingled together. There is a season for everything, a time for everything. So in a moment, Joe is going to sing a beautiful song for us. It's by a band called Over the Rhine, and the lyrics will begin like this. Have you been trying too hard? Have you been holding too tight? Have you been worrying too much lately? All night. Whatever we've lost, I think we're going to let it go. Let it fall like snow. Because rain and leaves and snow and tears and stars, and that's not all, my friend, they all fall with confidence and grace. So let it fall. Let it fall. It's tempting to hold on tight. We don't want to let go, to let things fall. We're afraid that if we let go, we'll forget. what was. And if we let go of certain hopes and dreams, what will take their place? What will life look like now? Letting go, letting things fall, laying down our stones is not about forgetting. It's not about getting over it and moving on, because we know that grief will keep coming in waves, likely when we least expect it. Letting go, letting things fall, laying down our stones is about naming our loss and acknowledging our grief in the presence of God who loves us and the love of the people gathered here. It's daring to say, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. So as Joe sings now, we may want to sit and listen for a while, and when we are ready, we are invited to come forward and lay our stones down here, building a cairn together, a monument to our grief, a marker on the way, a release of our burdens. Whatever it is for you, let it be, let it go, let it fall. Surely the Lord is in this place. Amen.